Boo, boo, boo. I hope I don't look too scary because the video we're watching is already scary enough. So if I add on top of that, you're gonna be in for a spooky season. But here we are. We got Chase, W Creator. I really like this guy. And he has a video for us called Why Do We Fear the Almost Human? The Psychology of the Uncanny. It's not just about the Uncanny Valley, if you've heard about that. I think it's like a different type of spin on it because it's more recent and I trust bro. So let's see what he has to offer.
Does something about this feel wrong? The answer is probably yes, but you likely can't explain why. Why do entities that are almost human creep us out more than things that aren't human at all?
Y'all, do I creep y'all out? Be honest. Am I part of the Uncanny Valley?
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. My name is Chase. Today we're going to be exploring the uncanny. Not just the uncanny valley and why humanoid robots or realistic looking dolls make us feel creeped out, but I want to go a step farther and explore the uncanny as a whole, and instances in life where that same feeling may be invoked. Let's get right into it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy. I don't want to waste time explaining what the uncanny valley is.
I don't understand. So human likeness down here. So the more human. I don't know what affinity means. Okay, hold on, whatever.
Because I feel like most of you guys probably
He'll probably explain it, right?
enjoy. I don't want to waste time explaining what the uncanny valley is because I feel like most of you guys probably already know by now. It's not exactly a niche thing, it's talked about all the time now online. If you're watching this video, I assume you probably already know what it is. But for anyone who's completely in the dark, the term
the uncanny valley is the drop. It's the valley of the graph. So it's saying this is the valley. Dog, I gotta be slow, gang. Okay. Well, it doesn't give many examples, does it? A prosthetic hand? Like, that ain't uncanny. I don't know, whatever. That's why it was confusing.
by now. It's not exactly a niche thing, it's talked about all the time now online. If you're watching this video, I assume you probably already know.
What is that drawing in the back, bro? Gang. That's creeping me out. Go away.
But for anyone who's completely in the dark, the term uncanny valley was first used by Japanese roboticist Masahiro Mori. Mori spent the 1960s working on machines that were designed to mimic human movement and appearance. He noticed a trend of people generally responding more positively to robots that were more human-like. But this was only up until a certain point. Eventually, the robots reach a stage where they become too human-like while still having characteristics that clearly identify them as being not human. At this point, people begin to react with extreme discomfort and are very avoidant. Mori took note of his observations in an essay written in the 1970s, and the term the uncanny valley was coined. Later in the video, we're gonna...
Yeah, so there's like cute robot, which is on the left, or just like a normal robot, way on the left. But then the farther you get to the right, where it starts to look more human, it starts to become like, I don't want that. You want like the little Disney looking ones that are like cute and stuff.
1970s, and the term the uncanny valley was coined. Later in the video, we're gonna get into a few theories about why entities that closely resemble us make us feel this way, but before we do that, I want to try to define what the uncanny actually is. One of the first people to really explore the concept of the uncanny was the founding father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud.
Why has he got a vape, y'all? What is that?
Concept of the uncanny was the founding father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund
Who's got a geek bar?
Freud. In Freud's 1919 work, Das Unheimliche, or in English, The Uncanny, Freud describes the uncanny as the class of terrifying which leads back to something long known to us, once very familiar. Which is to say that the uncanny is something that feels familiar and alien at the same time. Something that should feel ordinary or mundane feels off-putting. You see, Freud believed that much of human behavior was driven by repressed desires, fears, and memories. These pieces of you are often buried deep within your subconscious mind. When the uncanny arises, it is this repressed content being driven to the surface. So beliefs that you're more likely to hold as a child when you don't really understand the way the world works yet, like believing in magic, or spirits possessing objects, and your toys being able to move by themselves. When something in the world provokes these old repressed beliefs, the result is that strange, unsettling feeling. the uncanny. To Freud, things like hyper-realistic dolls and machines are uncanny because they blur the line between the animate and inanimate. Our expectations of what it means to be alive, conscious, and human are being challenged. Another different interpretation of the uncanny comes from French psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan, who significantly reinterpreted much of Freud's work. Lacan believed that there are 3 different orders or registers that describe different dimensions of the human experience. These 3 registers, the imaginary, the symbolic, and the real, explain how we form our own self-identity and how we interact with the world around us. The imaginary is the realm of images, fantasies, and self-identity, shaped by early experiences and identifications, most notably the mirror stage. The mirror stage often occurs during infancy, when the child is first able to recognize their reflection as themselves. Seeing and recognizing
That's so weird. But there was a first time when we all did that. There was a first time when we all pulled up to a mirror, looked at it, and was like, wait, that's me, gang. Like, that's odd. Like, there was a time where we would have looked at ourselves in the mirror and not have thought anything. But then one day it all changed. And we realized. We're like, hey, that's not just another baby. That's me, baby.
this reflection is when your self-identity begins to form. However, it's based on a misrecognition. It's kind of that same feeling that you get when you look at old pictures of yourself. Neither a reflection or a picture is actually capable of fully capturing who you are. The second register is the symbolic, and it is the realm of language and social structure. The symbolic shapes the way that we think, speak, and relate to other people. We use language to represent real things, but our unconscious associations shape our understanding. For example, if I were to say the word dog, we both know what kind of animal I'm talking about. But your past experiences shape the way you feel. If you've had numerous bad encounters with dogs, you probably don't like them very much.
What was that, bro? Shooting the dog? Yeah, I was thinking more like, too, like how a lot of social constructs have to do with job-related things, where someone refers to someone literally by what job they do. So then if you have like a skewed perception of the job, you're gonna have a skewed perception of the person too, just innately.
Those past experiences might invoke a negative connotation
But
around
why
the
are we
word.
shooting dogs?
But I've never really had a super negative experience with a dog. So even
No,
though we're
I
talking
have
about the
with
same
that.
thing, our associations with that thing are entirely different. The real is the final register, and it resists the other 2. When I say that it resists the other 2 registers, what I mean by that is that it cannot be fully put into words or images. The real is experienced when the other 2 registers are challenged or fractured, most commonly through traumatic experiences, where something that is meaningful to us is taken away or torn apart. Imagine you're walking down the sidewalk with one of your friends, and out of nowhere, a car swerves off the road and hits them, and just like that, they're gone. This would be an encounter with the real. You would be standing there frozen in shock, unable to process what just happened. The other 2 orders were just ruptured, because there's no way you would ever be able to explain that experience in words or images. To Lacan, the uncanny is a glimpse past the symbolic and into the real. You're seeing something that isn't alive, but it almost seems like it might be. The boundaries between what is alive and what's not collapse, and the result is the uncanny. The real is pressing through, something that is outside our comprehension. So does the uncanny creep us out because of repressed childhood beliefs or a glimpse past the symbolic and imaginary orders? Maybe that's a part of it, I'm not the one to say. The uncanny is very hard to define and to put into words, but there have been several other theories proposed as to why we evolved to fear the almost human. The mate selection theory states that uncanny features may signal poor reproductive health or genetic defects. We evolved to be repulsed by the almost human because they could signal low fitness in potential mates. From an evolutionary standpoint, mate selection involves subconscious checks for reproductive fitness.
That one makes a lot of sense. That one's just more unfortunate because nowadays when it doesn't really like have that strong of a correlation, like how you look has nothing to do with your genes and all that besides a physical basis. But I guess it ties in with hormones, like a higher hormone count makes you more defined in certain features.
Traits commonly associated with the uncanny, like lifeless eyes or pale skin, could indicate infertility or developmental issues. These traits unconsciously trigger this feeling of rejection to avoid passing on the weak genes. I'm kind of going to spoil my own beliefs on this. I think that the uncanny is a conglomerate of a bunch of different things. This is one of the only ones that I think I would count out entirely. Because first of all, I see people that I'm not attracted
Wha- The one thing that I was like, this makes the most sense, bro, just says he would count it out entirely. Let me try to see that perspective. Maybe because you don't ever feel like it when you look at people. Maybe that's what he was gonna say. Because you never actually look at people who are people, no matter how odd they look, and get that feeling. So maybe he's gonna say it has nothing to do with alive. Like it has to do with something about it not being alive.
one of the only ones that I think I would count out entirely. Because first of all, I see people that I'm not attracted to all the time, and I would not classify them as uncanny or say that I'm repulsed by them.
Okay.
And besides that, I wouldn't be able to look at a male doll or figurine and feel that same uncanny sensation because I'm interested in women. So I don't think the uncanny valley has anything to do with mate selection or avoiding passing on weak genes.
That makes sense.
Another theory is disease avoidance. Strange and unnatural features might subconsciously remind us of symptoms of illness, triggering an avoidant reaction to reduce the risk of infection. Evolution, of course, favored humans who could detect early signs of illness in others and avoid them. Features like odd coloring and sluggish robotic movement are often found in figures that fall into the uncanny valley, but they can also be signs of illness. We may be seeing these features as signs of possible illness, invoking an avoidant reaction. The predator avoidance theories.
I mean, there does seem to be like a deep-rooted sense of like something's wrong with a person that you get when something's wrong with a person. Like if you see a person and something's wrong with them, you like know it, like in a deep down sense, as if it's like part of our nature to be able to like recognize that. So it might be something to do with that, where like we just recognize that there's something off about whatever I'm looking at, like like this on the screen right here. Like I just deep down know that like that's just odd.
States that the uncanny valley may be a side effect of our predator detection systems. A being that looks almost human, but not quite, could set off primal alarm bells of spotting a predator wearing a human disguise. This would also explain why the robotic movement makes this feeling more pronounced, because the jerky unnaturalness of it resembles something pretending to be human. This is the other one that I'm not too sure about because, as far as I know, there's never been a predator that closely mimicked human behavior. Since the uncanny valley is a pretty universal feeling, it wouldn't make sense for it to be passed down to everyone if it wasn't benefiting our survival. Obviously, predator detection would be incredibly important to early human survival, but specifically fearing the almost human and human mimics seems a little bit out there. Unless our ancestors were regularly encountering skinwalkers and wendigo, it doesn't really make sense to me for this trait to be passed down to everybody. Because seeing a saber-toothed tiger stand...
That is weird. Like why would it be passed down to everyone? Like why does everyone get that deep sense of unease when they look at certain uncanny pictures? Yo, I wonder if that means something bigger, bro. What if there's some creatures out there that we don't encounter no more?
Standing in front of you and then seeing a mannequin that looks like it might be alive are two completely different feelings. The corpse recognition theory states that uncanny features often mirror traits found in corpses or mortally ill humans. Again with the waxy skin and glassy eyes, but also the rigid posture and slack facial expressions. These traits make us feel uncomfortable because of a subconscious association we have between them and death.
Yeah, like that looks like a dead person. So that makes me feel weird because it looks like it like I feel bad.
This one is pretty similar to the disease avoidance theory, which is why I waited to cover this one as well. Both of these theories make sense to me. It's just avoidance theory, which is why I waited to cover this one as well. Both of these theories make sense to me. It's just part of your brain trying to keep you alive. And part of staying alive is keeping you healthy and avoiding getting sick. Of course, staying around sick, dying, or dead people is probably suboptimal for your health and well-being as a human. So your brain subconsciously steers you away and says, maybe staying around this isn't the best idea. The other hominid hypothesis states that the uncanny valley is a leftover from when we coexisted with other human-like hominids.
See, that all makes sense because they wouldn't be like terrifying, like maybe a threat, but not in like the way we get it.
Like Neanderthals and Denisovans. Our encounters with these species may have regularly involved competition for things like resources and food, leading to a hardwired caution response for almost human faces. Even though we're now the only remaining hominid species left, our brain may have retained this evolutionary suspicion towards anything that may resemble a separate tribe. Alright, I know I said I'm only counting a couple of these out, and I don't know if I want
What is bro doing on the donkey?
a separate tribe. Alright, I know I said I'm only counting a couple of these out, and I don't know if I want to count this one out completely, but to me it definitely seems very unlikely. Maybe it's a part of it because I can see how we would be competing with other species of humans for food and resources. But personally, I would not breed with something or someone that I found to be uncanny looking. And we know that early Homo sapiens bred with Neanderthals.
Yeah, like they don't get that the deep, uneasy feeling at all by any means. Like it has to almost look distorted to give you that. And I think no animal really has that.
Are people in the world right now who have more Neanderthal DNA than you or I because their ancestors bred with Neanderthals. So again, I don't think this one holds a lot of weight. The category ambiguity theory states that we as people like to put things into categories, and we prefer to be able to tell definitively whether something is human or not. If you look at an object, you put it into the category of not being alive. But if that object is a doll or mannequin that looks somewhat like a real person, our brains try and fail to force a classification, creating that unsettling feeling. This one is pretty straightforward and it makes a lot of sense to me. It kind of ties back to Lacan's theory of the other orders being challenged. I used a dog earlier as an example, so I'm going to use that again. Could you imagine coming home one day and your dog is speaking to you fluently? Maybe after a while you get used to it, it might even be kind of cool for a little bit, but your immediate reaction, or at least my immediate reaction, would be that uncanny feeling, because part of what I know about dogs is that they don't speak. So if my dog started speaking to me, it's breaking my classification of what a dog is.
That'd be so cool though. Oh my god. Yo, I would get used to my dog talking very fast. That'd be fun.
Another theory is the violation of social norms. As humans, we have behavioral expectations for others baked into our DNA. You can think about something like eye contact. Generally, we all feel comfortable holding eye contact for short durations of time, usually between 2 to 5 seconds. But when you meet a person who is breaking eye contact too frequently or holding it for too long, it makes you feel uneasy. Our brain is subconsciously noticing that the behavior being exhibited feels like mimicry, and it flags the entity as being possibly deceptive or manipulative. Again, this one makes sense to me, and I can definitely see how this would be a part of it. I've definitely met people in my life who make eye contact for way too long or make it too intensely, so maybe the uncanny valley is just that, but the next step up. It's the same feeling, but just a more intense version. So in conclusion, we don't really know what...
Bro, I overthink my eye contact so much. I'd be looking at someone's eyes and I'll look away and I'll be like, wait, should I have looked away yet? And then I'll look back and I'll be like, wait, well, because I already looked away, isn't it weird to look back so fast? And then I look away and I'm like, well, now I'm changing where I look at so fast. It's very bad. That's what I'm saying, y'all. Be honest. Am I uncanny?
The uncanny is, or why these things that fall into the
What the
uncanny
freak is
valley
that?
disturb us so much. While we don't have a definitive reason for the uncanny valley's existence, it's likely the result of multiple systems overlapping rather than just having one specific cause. It reveals just how deeply we care about what it means to be human, and how violated we can feel when something blurs the line between that boundary. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new or at least found it entertaining. Also, I need to say thank you guys for...
Yeah, W Chase, gang. That was a good video. I enjoyed that. But I really wonder why that happens. W Chase, go check him out. He has more videos like that. I don't know if this is something we could ever even prove. Like, even if we get really good technology, it'd be very hard to know where something originates, you know, in our brain. But if we ever do, that'll be fun. I'll catch y'all then. Subscribe if you want to see videos like this more often. Like this video so more people get to see it. And then listen to Blakey on all music platforms. Music, 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 music. Blakey, Blakey, Blakey. Everywhere. Run it up.